Simple art is a universal language, and one center in Bar Harbor is making sure it's accessible to everyone.
I visited a nonprofit bringing creativity to the MDI community.
Art Waves is offering a space for individuals of all ages and skill levels to discover their artistic potential.
Those are some of the most gratifying results to see is when someone comes in with no experience, with no confidence that they can do something, and creates a really meaningful habit, develops a passion, and it can be really transformative to their life to discover a new art form.
Katie Hodgkins is the executive and creative director for Art Waves. From knitting or painting classes to fiber arts and mixed media, she says there's something for everyone.
There's a lot of opportunity for people to find joy in creating art, but also to find connections with community members.
Paige Collins is an Art Waves member that created a group called Witch Stitch at the Community Arts Center.
We can make some more bags with that.
She's been a member of Art Waves for about 4 years.
I've made new friends. There's a lot of laughter. And then it's also enriched my life because I see these people in the community in other aspects of their life as well.
Hodgkins emphasizes that Art Waves is more than just an art school. It's a community hub that fosters collaboration and connection.
It's really important to bring people together, to get people working hands-on with materials, and to be creating and doing things with other people.
Logan Hoffman, WABI News, Bar Harbor.
And Art Waves is ever evolving with a new instructor coming soon, and they have some big news they're almost ready to announce.
So stay tuned on their Facebook page and website, artwavesmdi.org, for more information.